the Europeans who colonized the Congo, as you said, the Belgians, committed some of the worst Holocaust in the Congo. It's estimated that as many as 10 million people were killed under King Leopold II of Belgium, right? And many were permanently disfigured and maimed, including children. So the big product in those days were rubber for the production primarily of tires, right? When automobiles were becoming a big thing in the earlier part of the 20th century or late part of the 19th century. So rubber was a big product produced in the Congo. Now, if you did not meet your quota that you expected to produce, they would cut off your hand or they would cut off your feet. And if anybody Googles Congolese victims of King Leopold, I'm sure all these images would just pop up because they took photographs too and went around to show it to scare other Congolese that if you don't produce, this is what's going to happen to you. And they paraded the people whose hands had cut off, feet had cut off, and showed them around to other people to make them produce more rubber. And yet, they called the Congolese the barbarians and savages when they were the ones who were maiming people and cutting them and killing people. It's amazing. Because they got to tell the story. So our job is to retrace that history and write it in a much more truthful way. And that's part of what I try to do in my book as well.
Right. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that they would never teach in public schools to high school students. Maybe in college, if you take a deep African course, maybe when you're in your early 20s, you might learn about that. But like you say, 10 million people died. How many events in history can you compare to that? You know, that's just how brutal it was, you know.
I'm glad you said that because so I teach 3 classes at John Jay. And all of them are interrelated. African history. One class is about colonization up to the contemporary modern era. Another class is similar to what my book is all about. And it traces the historical demonization of Africa, beginning in the 18th century all the way to now. Now, when students, we have 15 weeks of classes. I would say about the 6th week or so, one student is going to say, Professor, how come we never learn any of this in high school? And then all the rest are going to chorus say, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. And I told them, I said, listen, it's easier to manage people that are relatively uninformed. And it's easy to keep them docile. It's easy to keep them self-hating and not expect much of themselves, to keep them ignorant about these issues. So the best gift for my students to me, it was when some of them tell me that when they get home, they relate this history they've learned to their parents or to their siblings. And then last year, when we were teaching online, because of the pandemic, at the end of the semester, several students told me, and I wasn't aware of this, right? They said during the semester, when I was online, you could see my image, but all my family was sitting and listening to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it shows to me that they want the knowledge. And once they have the knowledge, they're completely transformed. Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you use the right word, transform. I mean, when you learn about African history as a Black American, is very empowering because, like I said, Africa has almost 60 countries. There's no other continent with more countries than Africa. So if you learn about what South Africans went through, then you learn about what Namibians went through, the Angolans, the Congolese, you work your way all the way up.
Right.
And your head gonna be swole. swole with knowledge and information, but it makes you value.
If you don't mind, let me quickly read you something.
Yeah, go ahead.
From my book. And this is Malcolm said this in a speech in Detroit on February 14, 1965. This is from his speech. The colonial powers of Europe, having complete control over Africa, they projected the image of Africa negatively. They projected Africa always in a negative light. Jungle, savages, cannibals, nothing civilized. Whether naturally, it was so negative, it was negative to you and me. And you and I began to hate it. We didn't want anybody to tell us anything about Africa, much less calling us Africans. In hating Africa and hating the Africans, we ended up hating ourselves without even realizing it. Because you can't hate the roots of a tree and not hate the tree. You can't hate your origin and not end up hating yourself. You can't hate Africa and not hate yourself. You show me one of these people over here who's been thoroughly brainwashed, who has a negative attitude towards Africa, and I'll show you one who has a negative attitude towards himself. Malcolm understood the power of demonization, and he had the skill to lay it out in plain language.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he hit it right on the head. I mean, and you see it a lot in the African-American behavior because we don't know who we are. So we don't know where we want to go. We don't know who we're supposed to be. So we act out and rage towards each other. We hate ourselves. So the person that looked just like us, we quick to take out our anger on each other. But